Okay, welcome back to Bridge. In a previous tutorial, we took a quick look at how Bridge works at how Camera Raw works. And so now let's take a slower look, a more thorough look. Up here are all of our tools, and we'll explore all of these as we go on in the next couple of weeks. Here are all of our sliders. Here's the image panel, and here's the almighty histogram that we refer to again and again. Now there are several different panels. We're in basic. There's tone curve, detail, HSL grayscale, split toning, lens correction, effects, camera calibration, presets, and snapshots. A lot to go over, but most of our work we do in basic. So let's go back there and we click on that. Let's just take a look at what these different sliders do. First of all, let's look up here at the histogram. We have a shadow clipping warning and we have a highlight clipping warning. And when we select these, then those areas that are too bright will appear to be bright red. Now, these areas we're not really worried about being so bright because they're what you call specular highlights. They're reflections, and so they are maxed out. We would be more concerned if we had some clipping going on in her cheek or on her nose, but we can live with these. So, what we want to do is, as we move these sliders around, is get a more even balance. What do these do? So we have different white balance. White balance has to do with what is read as absolute white. So this is as shot. We can go to auto, and it turns a little bit blue-green, or we can go to custom, and it's a little bit redder. I just like to keep it as shot for the most part. Temperature, everything has a color tint, and most portraits tend towards the red. So we can enhance that, or we can get rid of it. So we can move towards the blue, or we can move towards yellow. Once you've moved a slider around and you think, ick, that looks terrible, to get it back in its original position, double-click on it. Alrighty. Another way that you could move these sliders is rather than moving the slider itself, by hovering over the word, and you'll see a little scrubby icon left and right, and then you can scrub back and forth. So I'm okay with the temperature, and the tint changes towards green or towards magenta. We're just going to keep that as it is. Exposure. Once again, we have an auto that we can try. Boom, and that pops it way up. That's not bad, actually. I kind of like that. Or we have default. So I usually like to change these myself, but if you try auto and you like what you see, then use it. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to try everything. Exposure is overexposing or underexposing, basically lighter or darker. And look at how the histogram moves. Moves quite a bit. I usually use this last because it is like a hammer. Okay, it's not the least bit subtle. Contrast. Contrast exaggerates those areas where there's light versus dark. Highlights pull up the highlights in an object. So the floor, the end of her nose. Shadows will pull up or darken the shadows. So as we move this to the right, you'll see that her cheek gets a whole lot lighter. Whites and blacks. Alrighty, whites and blacks, this is how we set the balance. You can do it manually by just doing this to see. Alright, taking a look at the histogram, and it's getting brighter and brighter. That's looking pretty good. Or we can try it automatically by hitting Shift and double-clicking. And that made it a little bit too dark. I don't always like what it does, so I'm going to click right there. We can do it on the blacks too. We can move them up to lighten or down to darken. We already have a lot of blacks if we look up at the histogram, so we would probably want to move these to the right. We can also try automatic. And it pretty much stayed where it was. Clarity makes the image a little bit sharper. And you can see it adds contrast. Vibrance makes the colors pop a little bit. Saturation just makes all the colors more so. So if you take a look at the floor and the red of the gym, watch what happens as we increase the saturation. Yow! They become really yellow and really red. And watch as we desaturate. It becomes a black and white image. So let's stop there right now, and then we're going to work on this image. Let me set everything back. And let's cancel that for now. We'll stop the recording, and I'll see you in a moment.